dudes and dudettes. How are you guys? This is Chazzy and welcome back to Cinema Chazzy, the segment on this channel where I review the many movies that I watch over the years, whether they're old or new or modern or classic. Some of those words, they are synonyms, and I keep repeating myself for some reason in all of these intros, even though I know they mean the same thing, but I just haven't memorized at this point, and I can't freaking do it, But then again, it is such a miracle that I'm recording this video today, A real miracle, because, it's late, it's like past 2 p.m. I'm hungry, haven't had lunch yet, the weather sucks, it might rain soon, So it's a miracle that I'm doing this video today, reviewing a movie whose title I actually forgot. What's the name of the movie again? I completely forgot, guys. You probably already, figured it out, But man, I cannot put my freaking figure on it. What's the name of the movie? Ah, man, I really could use a miracle right now to remember the title of this movie, huh? Well, holy freaking crap, man. If you haven't figured it out, you're kind of dumb, because it's in the title, and it's like in the thumbnail also. But I'm going to be reviewing Miracle. Look at that, I remembered. Oh my god, guys, holy crap, it was there. I just couldn't it was on the tip of my tongue, bro. Holy freaking crap. One of the greatest movies I have ever seen in my life, whether it's sports related or not. But within the sports category of movies, it's easily in my top 5 sports dramas ever, based on true facts. In this case, the 1980 Winter Olympic Games, in Lake Placid, United States. And bro, this is one of the craziest sports moments ever, easily the best in the 20th century, at least that's what other people say, because it was one of the most major sports upsets ever, because the very amateur United States team, pretty much comprised fully of college kids with very little play experience, actually beat the favored Soviet Union, the Soviets, to in the medal round of the Olympics to go and eventually win the gold medal against Finland. They beat them in a 4-3 victory that nobody expected. Even the announcer said at the end, "Do you believe in miracles?" It was freaking awesome. I love this movie so much, and it was released in 2004. Right around the time that I was growing up in America, watching all of these patriotic, movies and stuff. Although I wasn't really a fan of hockey yet, but still. This movie feels very nostalgic to me, starring, of course, the ever unshakable, legendary Kurt Russell playing Coach Herb Brooks, who was the actual real-life coach of the national team, and nobody believed in him. Everybody was skeptical, and yet somehow he produced the most crazy. Wow, where's my English today? The craziest sports moment, that a lot of people from that generation have seen and probably haven't seen since. This movie here was actually produced by Walt Disney. It was actually kind of cool because a lot of people forget that it was, produced by Disney, at least one of the production companies, because the other one was Mayhem Pictures, directed by Gavin O'Connor, and the movie had an initial budget of $28 million, and unsurprisingly went on to gross many times that, peaking at $64.5 million, in total. This movie is just timeless. It is a classic, and it has aged very well. Like, I'm not sure if it took any Academy Awards, but bro, it really deserves some, even if it was just for the storytelling, and the effects, because it's really cool how they brought in actual real-life hockey players to portray the characters, because I mean it really is much easier to teach a hockey player to act than an actor to play hockey, because it's a very tough sport. But just one of the many details that made it look so good, everything was so authentic and true to form. It took so much from the source material and kind of made it its own thing, I don't know, it just felt very unique, even though the story itself was already told, and it just felt good to get this, represented on the big screen. And I'm going to be talking more about, starting off with the plot. But before that, let's take a look at a clip here from the movie with Kurt Russell. I love Kurt Russell so much, bro.
Herb Brooks had given up his dream of Olympic glory until 20 ordinary kids.
Why'd you want to play hockey?
Isn't it obvious? For the girls?
Gave him a second chance.
The Soviets win. My goal is to beat them at their own game.
Beat the best team in the world.
Gold medalists in 64, 68, 72, 76.
Now, this iconic moment in sports history was dubbed the Miracle on Ice, because that's literally what it was. Nobody expected that to happen, And like even the sports announcer himself said, "Hey, do you believe in miracles?" Not exactly that way. Probably a bit more emotional than I did just now, but you know what I mean, okay? That's why the movie is called Miracle, and it takes us through the whole process, of how Herb Brooks is a coach, and everybody is skeptical against him, the committee, the organization, the league itself, but he has hopes that he can actually take the team all the way this time, so he talks to the directors, the whole entire committee. He has a different philosophy on how to beat the Soviets, he's really into it. He knows what to do, but the players at first kind of resist him a little bit, because because everybody is just coming from college level, but they have very little to no experience playing internationally, you know, so some of them just started their careers. So, you know, he actually starts using some very unorthodox methods to start reducing the squad, you know, because he does eventually want there to be just 20 players so they can go to the Olympics, you know, so it's very rigorous. So for them to, for him to address the final team, to build the final team, they really do have to be the best of the best out of all of them, you know, so they start to get cut. And, you know, there are a few exhibition matches here and there where he sees that they aren't playing up to their full potential, you know. There is this one, for example, all of this actually really did happen, you know, when they played Norway in a 3-3 tie. He actually has them, you know, running routes on the ice over and over and over again. He makes the players skate from one end to the other constantly for hours until even the stadium lights go out, you know, so he's very, very rough. It's pretty much like Coach Carter, you know, which I reviewed some time ago, which completely different topic here, you know, but he really feels like they have much more potential that they're not living up to, so he pushes them much harder. The players really start to resist him a lot, you know, especially when he starts cutting a bunch of them, you know, whether it's the goaltenders or the defensive or the offensive men, you know, he actually starts to really give it to them. And it's actually really, because I mean, he does want to win, because Herb was actually, you know, he was cut from the Olympic team in the 1960 Olympic Games that actually went on to win the medal. So now that he's the coach 20 years later, he will do anything to win, and the players do recognize this, you know. They know that they can be cut at a moment's notice. So there is also another exhibition game against the Soviets, you know, and they are completely throttled 10-3 at the Madison Square Garden, which makes Herb go freaking berserk, you know. It's really crazy. So he starts to actually, you know, switch the players around and seeing which ones are giving their best, you know. One of the goaltenders even gets injured. I can't remember the players' names. I'm sorry, but there's just way too many of them. So, but they are all portrayed, you know, the actors do play the actual real life players, you know. So, and then as the injuries pile up and the frustrations, the stress, you know, the Olympics start to draw near, but he does feel like they're ready when they finally reduce the squad to 20 players. When the actual Olympics begins, man, it's crazy because he does fire them up throughout the movie, you know, he does motivate them and inspire them. We see the relationship with his wife at home, you know, and how he's really trying to run different plays and try to really dedicate himself to this, you know. And then finally they start to see eye to eye. When they begin, the Americans trail Sweden 2-1. They're losing the game, but then they tie it up, you know, in the last few seconds. So then later they win against Czechoslovakia 7-3. They start to beat all of the much stronger nations in order to get to the medal round against the Soviets, you know. So they beat Norway, Romania, West Germany, you know. If you saw the Olympics night there, you know exactly what happened, you know. Then they finally faced the Soviets, who at that point were undefeated. I believe that they had gone for the last 5 Olympic Games, they won the gold medal 4 times, you know, when they were very experienced, very heavy and bulky, you know. So it was very intimidating, but the game went on, you know. The game just happened naturally with a few moments, you know, spliced in for Hollywood effect, you know, where it shows it shows Herb talking to the players, motivating them on the sideline, you know, after some of the goals and stuff, you know. So they do glamorize it. However, there is a moment, you know, before the end of the game, one of the intermissions, where he gives one of the most famous speeches in movie history, you know, motivating them and saying that they made it here, you know, they gotta win it, you know. Very, very similar to not just Coach Carter, but there was another moment as well. I forgot what movie it was. I think it was a football movie. I think it might have been Gridiron Gang. It just harkened back to that, you know. There was a moment where there was a coach giving a very heartfelt speech, you know, in pretty much every sports movie, but this one was really cool. He fires them up. You guys can go watch the speech later on YouTube, you know. Maybe I'll even leave a link to it up here, but maybe it'll show up here in the clips, you know. So then eventually they go on to actually make the score 4-3, you know, and they hold that. The final minute, you know, was so freaking crazy, you know, as the scoreline is there at 4-3, then the Americans actually start holding the Soviets on the ropes, you know. They defend, they don't let them come near to score any more goals, and then as the dying minutes come, it starts to show exactly the call, you know. Let me just get the name of the guy, because I always forget his name, you know. I'm really sorry. Al Michaels was the commentator, you know, and even though he largely re-recorded a lot of his dialogue, you know, they actually left the real original final few seconds there because he felt that he couldn't replicate it, you know. So it really does say, do you believe in miracles? Do you believe in miracles? Yes, yes. You know, all of the, you know, he says, you know, using the original audio, and then everybody, it's all euphoric and stuff, you know. It's really, really crazy. It's maddening. Then it shows a little text of what you know, there was a closing narration talking about Brooks, you know, that he was actually there, you know. It was one of his proudest moments, if not the proudest, seeing the boys getting their gold medals. So it's really crazy. I'm sorry if I'm pulling from the cheat sheet here. It's because it's been a while since I've watched it, you know, and way too much hockey action there. But basically that was it, you know. A very cool, you know, almost like autobiographical drama there. Before I continue, let's take a look at another clip here. I need to take a breather.
Mark Johnson,
Buzzy Schneider.
Michael Ruzioni.
you're missing some of the best players.
I'm not looking for the best players, Craig. I'm looking for the right ones.
They were bitter rivals,
A lot of guys from Minnesota and Boston.
Yeah, that's gonna work.
but one coach had a plan to turn them into a team.
I got no time for quitters.
You want me to play, huh? I want you to be a hockey player! I am a hockey player!
Think that'll get them going?
So Kurt Russell was actually cast as Coach Herb Brooks because the producers wanted somebody with an athletic background and a very fiery passion for sports, you know. It fit like a glove. Then there were the tryouts for the hockey players to portray the actual players, you know, in the movie, you know. So like they were real hockey players playing the characters, which I think gave it a much more authentic feel, you know, because I mean, dude, come on. If you're going to make a hockey movie, you might as well use actual real hockey players, right? I mean, learning hockey is really complicated. So like I said earlier in the video, it's easier to teach them how to act, you know. And there were a grand total of 133 hockey plays used in the film, which was crazy, you know. And the players actually had to go through a 6-week training period to understand how to play in the older equipment, you know, because it's a lot different than what they were used to in the modern day NHL at the time, you know, like in the early to mid 2000s. So it was much earlier. Like we're talking about like a 24-year period, man. Hockey had changed a lot, so they had to kind of, you know, relearn how to use that older stuff, you know. And of course, the screenwriters, the producers, everybody working on the movie referred a lot to Coach Brooks, who was still alive at the time, you know, and you know, a lot for they refer to him on different plays, equipment, uniforms, you know, how certain things could work, because he almost pretty much served as an executive producer because he was giving him so much advice on what to do, you know, and he was actually there, he lived it. So imagine doing that, man, you know, like going through that and then seeing it happening on the big screen, you know. So now all of the fights, the stunts, everything was choreographed, you know, to maximum potential to ensure the actor's safety, because hockey is a very, very complicated sport, man. It gets really rough sometimes, you know. I did talk about that in this video here about how hockey is so violent, you know, and why it is. There's a whole history there, but still, they filmed a lot of the games in different arenas, you know, like for example, the exhibition game in which the US lost to the USSR team, you know, in Madison Square Garden, they actually filmed that at the Pacific Coliseum, which is the former home of the Vancouver Canucks, you know. So that's pretty much how it is, man, you know. Then eventually they would film other scenes in like the PNE Agro Dome, you know. So there are a lot, like they really did go to actual real hockey stadiums, you know, hockey domes to film some of them, which I think was really cool. So, and the team tryouts were actually set in Colorado Springs. They were filmed, you know, in New Westminster. So the movie was really all over the place, you know. So, and I think that a really nice touch was Al Michaels coming back to play himself, you know, record some of the commentary. But I can understand him not being able to recreate the original, you know. They actually used the real, those final seconds there, man, was actually really him actually why do I keep saying actually, was the actual legit real footage of him, the audio recording of him, you know. So it was a very grueling process, you know. It was really awesome, but the movie itself felt very authentic. It was really like as close to the real thing as you could possibly get to, you know. The saddest part is that Herb Brooks actually died in a car accident while the movie was still in production, you know. Unfortunately, he passed away a little bit after principal photography was, you know, was finished. So he never actually saw the finished product, but then again, he did live it. So, you know, I didn't really think he needed to, but it's very morbid, man. The guy who lived that story couldn't see it on the big screen, but it's fine, you know. Kurt Russell really did a really good job of portraying him, you know. So it actually won in 2004 the best sports movie ESPY award, or SP award. I don't even know how you actually say that, to be honest, you know. So everybody praised it, you know. It got so much praise on Metacritic and other websites, you know. Now as for the cast, I'm not going to read everybody, you know, because there are a lot of actors portraying the players. So just gonna focus on a few main ones, like for example Kurt Russell, who played Herb Brooks, you know, who is of course the hockey coach, you know, who himself, you know, really was pining after that medal that he didn't win 2 decades prior. We also had Patricia Clarkson playing Patty Brooks, who was his wife and a central character to keep him at a level head throughout the movie. Then Noah Emmerich playing Craig Patrick, who is the assistant general manager and assistant coach under Brooks for the hockey team, you know. Then we have Sean McKen playing Walter Bush, who is the general manager of the actual U.S. Olympic hockey team. So he's kind of like, you know, figuring out the whole thing. Then we also have Kenneth Welsh playing Doc Nagelbads, you know, who is the team physician and also who was a longtime friend of Brooks at the time, you know. We have, of course, like I said before, Al Michaels playing himself, you know, the sportscaster who gave the play-by-play for that game there, and also, you know, the voiceover, and there was also archive footage. And we have Ken Dryden also playing himself, you know, who is a former goaltender who at the time was providing color commentary for the tournament, you know. So we have the voiceover and also the archive footage. So kind of cool how they implemented those actual real-life personalities there. Let's look at one more clip before I continue. I keep looking behind the camera to see if it's still recording because it's the stuff in here. Come on, another clip, go.
When you face the impossible.
Russians' main weapon is intimidation.
This guy's ever smile?
They're Russians. They get shot if they smile.
And you refuse to give up.
I didn't think it was gonna be this hard.
Yeah, you did.
We start becoming a team right now.
Miracles can happen.
Hey, look, there's no denying that this movie is an iconic masterpiece of American cinema, you know, and easily, like, I would honestly go on to say that at least in terms of hockey, it's the best movie I've ever seen, you know. I haven't actually watched too many, but, you know, bro, let's be real here. Well, how can you make a hockey movie as a drama better than this one, you know? Because the vast majority are just like, you know, stupid like slapstick comedies like Goon or the Slap Shot from the 1970s, you know? Like a lot of them aren't very as driven as this, and it's based on a true story, you know? And the focus and determination of Herb Brooks was emulated perfectly by Kurt Russell, you know? I actually think it's because of Kurt Russell that the movie did so well, because if it wasn't for him, you know, his speeches, his mannerisms, and the way that he projected himself on screen, you know, the movie would not have been as good as it was. Sometimes one actor makes the difference, you know. And I finally remembered the movie that I was trying to say earlier. It was Glory Road, the basketball one, you know, about, I believe it was set in the 60s, you know, where there was a white coach who was drafting an all-black basketball team, which garnered a lot of hate and racism, you know, but there were a lot of inspirational speeches there as well. It's very similar to that, you know, but of course this one here was all whitewashed. But still, the point is that, you know, it's because of Kurt's performance that the movie went from cliche fan service to actual inspirational nostalgic goodness, you know, to quote one of the actual critics. So it's very nostalgic, you know, and you can actually pop in that speech there to, you know, motivate you to do whatever the hell you want in life, you know. It's really amazing. I love the way it came out, bro. No special effects, but the practical effects, you know, the atmosphere, you know, there were a lot of cuts here and there, especially towards the end, you know, because hockey games, like when you're doing a movie, it seems like there are cuts out the wazoo, but still, it didn't exactly hamper it. It's very easy to follow if you're a hockey fan like myself, you know, so can't complain about that. Amazing soundtrack, the music, the character development, the performances, you know, everything was perfect, man. The pacing was just right, the storytelling, the drama, the emotions, you could really feel the rawness of every single emotion, good or bad, on the ice, especially at the end, you know. That was crazy. And rest in peace, Herb Brooks, you know, because, man, God, I really wish he was alive to have seen it, man. Herbert Paul Brooks Jr., you know, he was the junior too, but still, he made the Hockey Hall of Fame, so wherever he is now, hopefully he's looking down with pride. But anyway, I am going to be giving this movie, of course, obviously a perfect 10 out of 10. There was no suspense at all where this is going. Easily one of the best sports movie ever, you know, regardless of genre. And bro, this movie actually made me like hockey even more, you know, because holy freaking crap. I don't think something like that will ever happen again, man, you know, at least like, well, in the 20th century, it's really hard to argue if any moment like was better than that, because it was so unexpected, man. Nobody could have thought that would have happened. So in the 21st century, then well, then we can talk about that later, you know. But as of the 20th century, I don't think any sports moment would be more iconic or more dramatic than that, you know, just for the unexpected factor there. But anyway, amazing movie, great set pieces, great design, everything just looked perfect, you know, very true to life replica of everything that happened at Lake Placid in 1980. And if you've never seen it, please go ahead and do so. There's really no way that you could have gotten spoilers if you know what actually happened in real life. So, I mean, it's a biographical drama. How can there even be spoilers? Anyway, if you happen to like this video, please go ahead and give it a like, and also subscribe to my channel because I release videos every single day. And while you're at it, hit the notification bell too so you can know exactly what time I upload. And it's all good. It's all good. This is Chazzy signing out for now, and as always, I will see you guys in the next video. Roll the final clip and then the outro screen. If there is one more final clip to roll, I don't know.
Listen to him. We can beat these guys.
Discover the story
This is your time.
behind the greatest moment in sports history.